My fiancé said, "Your money is our money. My money is mine." I didn't argue. I just looked at her and said, "Then our future is yours too." A week later, I met with my lawyer and had a prenup drawn up. When she refused to sign it, I walked away calmly. She was humiliated, explaining to her parents and friends why the wedding was off and why she was moving out of the house she never paid for. You can tell a lot about a relationship by how someone treats you when other people are watching. That Friday night, we were at the Marlowe, one of those dimly lit restaurants where the drinks cost more than the entrees. Stella insisted on it. Her best friend Aria was there with her new fiancé, and the night was supposed to be about celebrating their engagement. But somewhere between the second bottle of wine and the overpriced charcuterie board, the conversation shifted. Aria joked about how Parker and I had just landed a big software contract, something I'd only mentioned once in passing. Stella smiled, but not the proud kind of smile, the performative kind. "Oh, Anthony's doing well," she said, swirling her glass. "But honestly, his money is our money. My money is mine." The table laughed. I didn't. For a second, the clinking glasses and restaurant chatter faded. I looked at her perfect makeup, perfect posture, perfectly unaware of the bruise that sentence left. I didn't argue. I didn't correct her. I just nodded once and said, quietly, "Then our future is yours too." She laughed, thinking it was sarcasm. Aria giggled. Even Thomas, her father, might have thought it witty if he'd been there. But I meant it. I finished my drink, tipped the waiter, and drove home in silence. That was the night I realized love can't survive entitlement, it only funds it. Because once someone shows you how they measure your worth, it's on you to decide whether to stay in their equation or rewrite it. The following week, I started noticing things that had been there all along, just buried under love and good lighting. Our joint account was supposed to be for shared expenses, rent, groceries, and bills. But when I checked the transactions, it looked more like Stella's personal fashion fund. $890 at Dior, $410 at Sephora, $360 at Luma Aesthetics. When I brought it up, she didn't flinch. "Babe, those are for us. I have to look presentable for the events we go to," she said, as if a $900 bag was community service. I asked, "So, when do we start using your account?" Her eyes flicked up from her phone. "That's for emergencies," she said flatly. That night, I did something I hadn't done in months. I checked my savings goals. House fund, $42,000. Emergency fund, $15,200. Wedding fund, $18,000. All saved by me. For the first time, I realized this wasn't a partnership, it was a pipeline, and I was the source. So I smiled, kissed her forehead, and said, "You're right. Babe, emergencies first." She didn't realize I meant mine. A week later, Parker and I were reviewing client invoices when he noticed I seemed distracted. "Still thinking about the our money, my money thing?" he asked. "More like thinking about math," I said. "And how equations balance out eventually." Parker laughed. "You're too calm about this. Most guys would have lost it." I shrugged. "Anger's expensive. I can't afford it." That afternoon, I called my lawyer Samuel Blake. I told him I needed a prenup, drafted immediately, airtight and transparent. No tricks, no traps, just fairness. Samuel asked, "Does she know?" "Not yet," I said, "but she will. I believe in honesty." That night, Stella came home, bragging about a $12,000 quote from a wedding planner. I let her talk for 10 minutes before handing her the prenup draft across the table. She blinked at it, confused. "What's this?" "Math," I said simply. "Just putting numbers where words used to be." She laughed it off, but I saw the flicker in her eyes, the one that meant she finally understood the equation was changing. A few days later, Stella's mother, Karen, called me out of nowhere. Her tone was sugar-coated poison. "Anthony, dear, Stella told me about this prenup nonsense. It's really unnecessary, don't you think? Marriage should be built on trust." I smiled even though she couldn't see it. "I agree completely. And trust is why I think Stella should have no problem signing it." She paused. Then, the fake sweetness vanished. You're making her feel controlled. I'm just giving her the same independence she's already claimed, I said. That night, Stella stormed in, red-faced. Did you tell my mother I'm not trustworthy? No, I said calmly. You did. When you said your money is yours, she glared at me. You're turning this into a test. Exactly, I said. And it's pass or fail. She threw the papers on the table and said, I'm not signing something that assumes failure. I nodded once. Then maybe we shouldn't assume marriage either. For the first time, she didn't have a comeback. Just silence, the kind that tells you the love story's turning into a business negotiation. 2 weeks passed, and I played my part perfectly. Smiles at brunch, comments on her posts, even helped her pick table settings for a wedding that would never happen. She thought the silence meant surrender. I let her. In truth, I was quietly unraveling everything. Asterisk, moved my direct deposit to a new private account. Asterisk, closed the joint credit card. Asterisk, removed her name from the lease renewal. Asterisk, paused all vendor deposits under my name. Each move was legal, clean, invisible. When Parker asked, "You sure about this, man?" I said, "Completely. I'm not leaving her angry. I'm leaving her unprepared." The night before I walked out, Stella posted a photo of her engagement ring with the caption, "Love is about sharing everything." I stared at it for a long time, then typed my last comment. Exactly. The next morning, she woke up to an empty closet, an unsigned lease, and a text that read, "You said your money was yours. I just made sure mine is too." When I left, I didn't make a scene. I didn't block her. I didn't even post anything. I just let the silence breathe. That's what unnerved Stella the most. Silence doesn't give people control, it gives them reflection. For 3 days, she said nothing. Then her Instagram feed lit up. Selfies, quotes about self-love, and a carousel captioned, "Sometimes people can't handle a strong woman." Parker sent me the post with one line, "She's spiraling." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. I knew the pattern. She'd play the victim first, then the martyr, then the glow-up. But reality always catches up faster than filters. 2 days later, she called. "Can we talk?" "Sure," I said evenly. When we met, she wore sunglasses inside the cafe. "You embarrassed me," she said. "Everyone's asking why we canceled the wedding." "I didn't cancel anything," I replied. "You did the moment you refused the prenup." Her lips trembled for the first time. "You're really ending this over paperwork?" "No," I said. "I'm ending it over principles." She left without finishing her latte. I stayed, calm, watching her walk out, knowing the woman who once demanded everything was about to learn the cost of losing what couldn't be bought. A week later, my sister Eden called. "She's been calling Mom, telling people you blindsided her." "I expected that," I said. "She needs a villain. It makes the story easier to digest." Meanwhile, I quietly handled the last step, refunding every deposit under my name. Venues, florist, caterer. Every vendor received a polite email. "Plans changed. Thank you for your understanding." Each cancellation triggered a small chain reaction. Word got around. People started asking why. Stella texted, furious. "You humiliated me. Everyone's asking questions." "My mom's furious," I replied. "Your money, your life, your story. Remember?" Then I turned off my phone. Later, Parker said, "Man, you're cold." "Not cold," I said. "Just finished." Sometimes the cleanest revenge isn't destruction, it's clarity. When someone loses the power to manipulate you, they start to destroy their own narrative. And that's exactly what Stella did next. A month later, Stella's brand started to unravel. A sponsorship she'd secured through her influencer job was suddenly revoked. Turns out, one of the companies was a partner in Parker's tech firm. I hadn't interfered, but Parker didn't like being used as content without consent. She called me at 11 p.m. "Did you tell Parker to cut me off?" "No," I said. "You did when you posted our private life for engagement," she scoffed. "You're vindictive." "No, Stella," I said softly. "I'm private." Her silence lingered. Then she whispered, "You're really done with me, aren't you?" "I was done the night you made our relationship a performance," I said. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in months. Freedom doesn't feel like fireworks. It feels like peace. And in the peace, you realize the loudest people in your life often have the weakest foundations. 2 months later, she asked to meet for closure. I agreed. I don't believe in running from unfinished business. She arrived, looking fragile, hair pulled back, no makeup. For once, she didn't look curated. She looked real. I just want to understand, she said quietly. You really didn't love me? I took a breath. I loved you, enough to protect us from the parts of you that didn't know what love costs. You loved the lifestyle, not the life. Tears welled up. I was scared, she said. My mom always told me to protect myself. I get that, I said. But there's a difference between protecting yourself and profiting off someone else's trust. She nodded, staring at her coffee. You're the calmest person I've ever lost, she whispered. Anger gives people power. Peace takes it back. We left it there, no yelling, no grand scene. Just two people who finally understood the math of love. When one side takes too much, balance demands subtraction. 3 months later, life was simple again. I'd bought a small condo downtown, nothing extravagant, just mine. My work with Parker was thriving. We'd landed 2 new clients, ironically both in the wedding industry. Sometimes, I'd still see Stella's name online short interviews, podcasts about healing from betrayal. I didn't resent it. Everyone heals differently. One evening, I got a message from an unknown number. I finally signed a prenup with myself, learning the hard way. Thank you for teaching me. I didn't reply, not out of pride, out of peace. The truth is, I didn't ruin her. I simply stopped funding the illusion she built. Because silence doesn't seek applause, it seeks freedom. Not shouting, but silence. Because when someone believes your money is our money, but theirs is theirs, the best correction isn't confrontation, it's subtraction. 6 months passed, enough time for everything to settle or scatter. I hadn't heard from Stella directly, though I saw her name occasionally in news feeds. She pivoted toward authentic lifestyle, content, budget, living, self-worth, resilience. The irony didn't sting. It made sense. People reinvent themselves from the ruins they build. One Sunday morning, I stopped by my sister Eden's place. She poured coffee and said, she reached out to me, wanted me to tell you she's sorry. I stirred my cup. That's good. Maybe she finally means it. Eden studied me. You don't sound angry anymore. I'm not. Anger's a luxury I can't afford. I'm too busy moving forward. Driving home, I thought about the version of me who would have fought to prove a point. That man wanted fairness. The man I'd become wanted peace. And sometimes, peace costs letting someone else believe they won the argument as long as you win back yourself. It happened at a charity tech event downtown. Parker nudged me. Don't look now, but your past just walked in. Stella, hair shorter, dress simple. No entourage, no phone in hand. She approached, hesitant. Anthony, you look happy. I am, I said. We talked briefly. No accusations, no pretending. She mentioned she'd started consulting smaller influencers, helping them manage money responsibly. Guess I learned from the wrong example, she joked softly. I smiled. Experience is the best accountant. When she left, Parker said, you handled that like a CEO. Not a CEO, I said. Just someone who closed the books. A few months later, I met Lena, a data analyst with no interest in luxury, just truth. We met at a client workshop and bonded over bad coffee and good sarcasm. Our first real date, she reached for the check. I said, let me get it, she replied. Next one's on me. Relationships work better when the math's even. I laughed. It was simple, uncalculated, exactly what I hadn't known I missed. That night, I realized the difference between someone who values you and someone who values what you can provide. One asks how your day was, the other asks what you paid for it. Lena reminded me that love isn't a transaction, it's an investment that appreciates when shared. A year later, a podcast episode titled, When Love Becomes a Ledger, popped up in my feed. The guest, Stella Turner. I listened out of curiosity. Her voice was steady. I thought security meant control, she said. It took losing someone good to realize control is the opposite of trust. She didn't name me, but she didn't need to. I heard the sincerity. The host asked, do you regret it? Every day, she said. Not losing him, losing the version of myself he trusted. I paused the episode halfway through. I didn't feel vindicated, just complete. Because real justice isn't watching someone fall, it's seeing them finally stand up on their own. Today, I don't think of Stella often. When I do, it's without bitterness, more like a story you once read and learned from. Lena and I share a small apartment filled with laughter, takeout boxes, and joint decisions. Every bill split, every plan discussed. Transparency has become a love language. Sometimes, friends still ask how I stayed so calm back then. I tell them the truth. I wasn't calm. I was calculating peace. Because when someone says, "Your money is our money, my money is mine," they're not just talking about cash. They're revealing how they divide respect, empathy, and effort. And the moment you realize that, you stop fighting for fairness and start living for balance. I didn't ruin her life. I simply stopped financing her illusion, and in that subtraction, I found my own equation for happiness. Peace equals boundaries, plus silence times self-respect.